Hi, the simple mix you just heard was made by recording two DI guitar tracks and then reamping those two tracks through a variety of other gear. The resulting guitar mix is wider and more dense than the original two tracks, but still has the same feeling of being only two guitars. In this video, I'm going to discuss reamping as I go through the exercise of recording all the guitar parts used in the mix, highlighting the reasons why you might want to do this yourself and why capturing the raw sound of the guitar might work to your advantage later. Reamping is a studio technique where, along with recording the sound of an amp, you also record a track that's just the raw output of the guitar. The raw track can be used later to send the sound of the plain guitar back into another amp so that a new track can be recorded, and the new track can be used to either replace or supplement the original track. The benefits of reamping are many. Here's some of the common ones. 1. Re-record the amp without the guitarist having to be in the studio to perform the parts again. This will even allow a guitarist to record a performance in one location and that performance recorded in another location through a different amp. 2. Record with other amps that are closer in sound to what you wanted, or make adjustments to the sound of the amp. 3. Blend amps together for a single performance for a fatter tone or stereo mixing. And 4. Perform punch-ins or edits on the raw guitar track before reamping, which is much easier to do. The first thing you need is a DI box when making the original recording. A DI box is for taking a high impedance signal straight from the guitar before it goes into any pedals or amps, and then sending that signal into your recording system. For this, I have a Radial J48 active DI box. You can also use a passive DI box like this one, though an active DI is typically recommended when using a guitar with passive magnetic pickups. Plug the guitar into the DI and send the through output to your pedal board or amp. To keep things simple in the video, I'm going to start by just using this modest preamp pedal, which has a simulated speaker output, and I'll do all of the recordings without any other effects. The XLR output of the DI, of course, goes into your recording interface. It's now a mic level signal, so you'll need to run this through a mic preamp to make it sufficiently loud. Get as hot a signal as you can without clipping or changing the sound, and record this channel while you record the rest of your amp and gear. Now here's a basic mix of that along with drums and bass guitar. This isn't a very good guitar mix, but it's only the starting point. And here's the sound of that raw guitar that was captured. Later, if you decide to do a reamp, you can use a device like this X-Amp, which is built to take a line level output from the mixer and convert it to a high impedance instrument signal that your pedal board or amp will work best with. The X-Amp has a couple important features. There's an output volume control, which lets you match the volume that your guitar would normally send to the amp, and you can even simulate rolling back the volume of the guitar for less gain. There's a ground lift in case you run into noise from a ground loop, and a second isolated output for sending the signal to two different amps simultaneously. A reverse polarity switch is provided on the second output if needed. Now here's the raw track I recorded sent into a completely different preamp and speaker simulator. With those settings, I'll record the result onto a new track. Instead of replacing the original guitar track, I'll pan the original track to the left and this one to the right. There's a latency aspect to the newly reamped track, which I'll just leave alone for now, since it does actually help spread the two sounds out in stereo. I can just as easily continue to reamp several different guitar amp and speaker combinations. Once I have all the tracks done, I can adjust levels, apply effects, and mix all of the tracks independently. I've also gone ahead and recorded a second guitar part, and I've already reamped it several times, and here's how that mix sounds. And here's the sound of the entire guitar mix with all the tracks. One thing I'd like to point out is I haven't used any EQ in the DAW for these guitar tracks yet. You can get a lot of mileage out of mixing amps together without adding EQ to the sound at all. The only thing I did do is adjust the timing of some of the tracks. Delaying a track slightly will give you a wider stereo effect if you pan it opposite of another track. And if two amps are mixed together in one channel, you may want to adjust the timing of one of them to compensate for any recording latency that occurred during the reamp process. One more thing I'd like to show is how reamping preserves guitar feedback, which may have occurred during the original performance. I've read some bad information that reamping doesn't allow you to use guitar feedback, so I want to bust that myth right now. I'll record only the raw guitar in this next bit, but in the room I have the amp loud enough to achieve sustained feedback. And here's the raw guitar reamped at low volume. So there's a lot of solid reasons to go ahead and capture the raw guitar even if you end up not using it. It's low effort, and I think of it as a standard part of tracking even if it's only a safety net. It's good to know I have the raw tracks if I end up needing them later.